Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to do this. My presentation today is on a topic we don't talk too much about, and that's perception versus deception. 6 ways to maximize your profit. My name is Norm Farrar. Some people call me the beard guy, and I've been around. I call myself a mutrepreneur because what I've been involved with so many different companies that it's not just one industry that I've been involved with. So this is going to come into play a little bit later on in the presentation, but I have been involved with promotion companies. I've built grandfather clocks for Bulova. I've had tech incubators. And now what I'm doing is I sell on Amazon. I'm primarily an Amazon seller, as well as I manage Amazon accounts for people and brands. So a couple of the accounts that I've worked with over the past few years, either in a consulting capacity or just as a contractor, a lot of Fortune 500 companies. However, I love the small and medium-sized companies. There's a diverse set of issues that come up with the small and medium-sized company that I love, and they can turn on a dime and rapidly implement, where when you're working with larger companies, it's harder to do. Now, why am I here? And really, what is perception? Well, it's an underutilized tool. What I found is that so many people go out and try to bring their product to market when they do a product launch that they go for the lowest price. They cheapen their product by keeping the price low. And what I want to show you today is the easiest way to increase your profits, double, triple, even quadruple those profits at the end of the day. And it's all by building loyalty, brand loyalty through a community. That community becomes very loyal to you, which builds traffic. And at the end, you can increase your price. Nobody's complaining. Everybody's buying. And the most important, you're going to hear this time and time and time again over this presentation, we're building trust. Now, my aha moment, that's me back in 2014. That's my emoji. Anyways, 2014, I had my aha moment. I was at an event at this very little company called Amazon. And I was sitting there and I was listening to everybody, and I just went, oh my gosh, this is something that I can do. I can take all the talents that I've had throughout the years and put it together and either become an Amazon seller or help other people become Amazon sellers. Now, one thing about this presentation, I'm not selling Amazon. What I'm selling is a method that you can apply to any e-commerce business, any retail business, or any service business. It's all about perception. And if you have a service company, what you want to do when you listen to this presentation is productize that service. So anyways, just to give you an idea, I'm going to be talking about Amazon, but just please apply it to those other services or products. But Amazon's pretty big. 55% of all online sales start at Amazon. Isn't that incredible? When I saw that figure, 55% of all online sales start at Amazon, I couldn't believe it. Now, why is this my perfect storm? Because I've been involved with so many different businesses. Back in the 80s, I started branding. I got that website started. I started a packaging company. I opened up a facility in Taichung, Taiwan. I was able to put everything together, and I was able to break out into multi-channels. Like, I had experience in e-commerce marketing, so I could get onto Shopify or WooCommerce, wherever I wanted to go. And what I loved is I'm an E-Myth. If you've never heard of this book, I would recommend going out and getting it. It's called the E-Myth. I think it's called E-Myth Academy or E-Myth Revisited, and it's by Peter Gerber. And this changed my life. By putting all this together, I learned how to write SOPs and policies and procedures, which, if I did this correctly, I could scale my own business rapidly. Or if I wanted to do it and I wanted to help other people, I could create SOPs, standard operating procedures, policies and procedures for other companies that would allow me to automate my systems and make it completely scalable. So for me, it was perfect. Now, the only problem I have is Amazon is a huge beast. I thought it was easy. It's not. I had to figure out how to navigate this thing. And what I found out is that Amazon was growing so fast that their tech support team was, I hate to say it, but useless. A lot of the times I'd be calling and I'd say one question. I wouldn't be satisfied with the answer. I'd have to call back again. If I called back 10 times, I'd had 10 different answers. So not that they were trying to be deceptive or tell me the wrong information. It's just that they had they just weren't being trained enough. They are getting better, but at the time it was, oh my gosh, it was so tough. So where to start? So I saw that there was people being successful, and I love digging into market research and pulling up market data, researching my competitors. And so I was trying to figure out how I can really crack that Amazon code and become a successful seller. I wanted to do it myself first before I could do it to anybody else. And so what I did, and I recommend this to anybody who's in business, is to become an expert, you have to jump in with 2 feet. So I started going to different conferences, events, masterminds. People know me. Even today, I go out to at least 2 events around the world, at least twice a month. And so what I found out by talking to people is that the average seller, and I would say this is for any e-commerce business, but new people coming on have very little experience, e-commerce experience. They know absolutely nothing about branding. They're undercapitalized. I see this time and time again. People try to launch on a shoestring budget and they just can't do it. They go under before they get launched. And the other thing is, especially in this world of email, is that you get pulled in too many directions. You're not focusing. And the shiny objects just, there's just too many of them, and they get unfocused. The other, I find this all the time, is people fall in love with the product. I've told people, I've looked at clients' products, and I've laughed, not at them, but just at the product, going, oh my gosh, how am I going to market this product? I tell them that it's not a good product. There's nothing I can do for the product, yet they still want that product because they fell in love with it 5 years ago. They put almost this time and research into it, and it wasn't very good research. But anyways, they're not willing to cut bait. What I tell them, and I tell everybody, is fail quickly. Also, this happens 100% of the time. They were always going after the lowest price. It's the bottom dwellers cannibalizing their product. And it's absolutely crazy, but I think it's just human nature that they want to go after what they think is the best volume by lowering price, and that just cheapens your product. However, the common traits in successful sellers is that they were all taking courses, like a good course. They just didn't jump in and just say, oh, Amazon's going to market for me. They know their numbers. It's so critical. And they, a lot of the times, you can pull out reports very easy. I use a service like Managed by Stats, and they can just basically they scrape your Amazon account, and they can tell you to the number, to the penny, what you're spending on account, what your profit is, what your spend is for advertising, and you got to know these numbers. The other thing is people believed and built SOPs. They had a system, either starting with themselves, any repeatable tasks, or when they were doing something, they would hire for simple tasks a VA to do some of their work. And they understand perceived value. Now, I'm going to be getting into perceived value, but a lot of people just really don't understand how you can build it. And the last thing that they did is they split tested. They took maybe it was a picture and a second picture, and they split test, and they split test, and they split test. But that didn't solve the problem of what made these guys stand out. And I was doing more and more research, probably on 1,000 different products. And I'll just switch over to this slide, and I found what was missing. And it came to me in 6 steps. And what I found is that time after time after time, I saw this type of format where you'd have the $100,000 or the $10,000 a month category dominated by one person. Then a couple of people might be getting, 20%. And then everybody else, just what I call the crumbs. And this was constant, time and time and time again. It was a pattern. So I found these 6 steps. And what I'm going to do, I'll introduce these 6 steps after this case study. I wanted to show you what can happen, what dramatically, or the dramatic change that can happen just by tweaking a few things in your product listing. And again, this could be in your service listing, how you're represented on the internet. So a 3-month study, I had a call with a client originally 2 years ago, and they had already sent the product over to Amazon. It was received. They sent me a package, and it was terrible. The packaging was terrible. The branding was terrible. Everything about the product was terrible, except the product itself. It had an incredible aroma that I really loved. And so when I was talking to the people, they said that they didn't want to put anything into their brand. They didn't really want to market too much because it was on Amazon, and they felt that their inventory should be pushed on Amazon. Amazon should push and market their product for them. And they had a cap. They sold at $9.99. They didn't want to sell anywhere over $9.99. They thought that was the top of the envelope. And we turned down their offer because they felt that it could only that they wanted only organic sales. They weren't willing to do any promotion at all. So they wanted to take this on themselves. So how hard can that be? I'll show you the product now, and then you can decide. This is the product. It's a toe wart remover in an ugly powder blue box with yellow and a deformed foot on it. That's how I received it. The packaging was terrible. The logo, where you see natural, you couldn't even see that. I had to enhance that so you could kind of see that. I can't read what their company is. And I did change it just so, they said I could use their images, but I did change the company name. But I'm going to call this company Natural Skin Products. That's the exact font that they had. And this is pretty much what it looked like. And then when you got to the bottle, you opened it up, and the box ripped while I was opening up. That's how cheap the box was. And then I had these 2 bottles, and they were very poorly marked. So 18 months later, they gave me a call, and they said, "Hey, Norm, can you take a look at our product? We have no sales." They had $1,000 in sales in 18 months. Surprise. So they were still very reluctant. They actually offered me $100 to revamp their listing. After I laughed, not at them, but I got off the floor and I shook myself off. I said, "Look, I can do this. And I really love the product. I love the oils that you use. The ingredients were incredible." I said, "But you have to do one thing, or a couple of things. You have to remove that stock. We need a complete makeover. You have to hire professionals. I need a professional photographer or copywriter, or if we're going to be doing a web page, we need to have professionals." So I created a proper launch strategy. They agreed. I almost had a heart attack because I couldn't believe that they agreed. It was a 180 from what they thought before. But the nice thing about this was we had complete control of the product. And they asked me not to show the packaging, but here's the product. What we did is we turned it from a really dark brown, deformed foot kind of look to a wellness and natural look where it looked nice. The product actually looked nice by just changing the bottle. The logo is way better than this. I put the just as Natural Skin Products because again, they just didn't want me to show their name. So I just came up with something very quickly. And then the customer experience was incredible because once they got it, they opened it up. There was a micro corrugated cardboard box, not a Chinese cheap tuck box. And the bottles were individually wrapped with a message on it. So people, and there was a safety seal at the bottom. So you had to pop it, open it up, and it was a really great experience. So what ended up happening and we gave away 200 units to try to get some reviews and to try to stimulate some sales, but we did no advertising. which we're doing now, but we didn't do it at the time. And these were the results. So just changing this, in 30 days, we had $8,000 in sales. 60 days was 28. 90 days was 68, but get this. I presented a freight company because they needed to get shipping because I thought this was going to be a really good month for them. And it was $100 more. They decided to go with a cheap shipping company, and they took 10 days to get the product to the Amazon warehouse. It cost them $40,000 in lost sales, and they had to relaunch the product. But we got to 68,000 in 20 days of sales. So I think we did a pretty good job. And this I wanted to show you just to quantify what we were talking about. This is right out of the back end of their Seller Central account, so you can see. And if you take a look at the conversion rate, 1 out of 3 people that landed bought the product. Now, perception. And what I want you to do today is with each of these 6 steps, I want you to step back and just think outside of the box. Think slightly differently of the approach that you want to take. Think differently about your competitors. And if you do that and you just take a few extra seconds and you take a look at these 6 steps, which I'll introduce here, you're going to find a dramatic increase in sales. And all it is, and I'm going to get into each one of these in detail, is talking about your brand. Think about your product and your packaging, the images, the details, and the most important thing is the customer experience. So this is a disclaimer. If you are looking for a product, and if you have a product and your product is terrible, there's not a lot I can do about it. But I'm going to give you a tip. If you're not sure if your product's terrible, go and take a look at the reviews. So go and take a look at your competitors' reviews of the product. And a lot of the times when you're looking at reselling a product on Amazon, there's multiple people that could be selling it. It's just a private label, but it's all coming from the same manufacturer. So take a look at the people's reviews and see what they're saying. And if you come up with reviews that are not great, worthless, kind of junk, you know, you have to look like, and this was from one review I looked, and it was a 3-star rating overall. They had like 200 different reviews, and somebody was looking at this plastic shoe stretcher. 6 or 7 other people were selling it. There was nothing they could do to be different. It was a bad product, but they still wanted to sell it. This could be the same for people that have product on there right now. Fail quickly. That's the thing. If you cut it now and go on to the next product, then no problem. You just start all over, you get it going. It doesn't take long to get to this point. Now, if it is a bad product, you can make improvements. You can take a look at that product and make the improvement. But if you cannot make improvements on it or make the changes that you need, then I've got one suggestion: run. No one's going to be able to help you. And if you try to market a bad product in a really gorgeous package, all you've got is a bad product in a really gorgeous package. So let's get into the steps. So I had to put this little tagline in here. You know, I didn't put it in the title because I hate hype. So, but crush your competition. 6 steps to crush your competition. So first one, think brand. The brand is so important. This is what's going to build the equity in your company. Find an incredible name. Spend some time. Some great companies over lunch came up with their name, but the majority take time to figure out. And you want to check out your competition. Check out other people in the industry. Know your audience. And then you can build that brand. And over time, that brand's going to build equity. That it's a huge line item when you go to sell your company. So I'm going to show you a couple of names that I found that most of them are real names that I found that you just can't use. Like tongue fat, it's a beauty product. Toe juice, I bought the product. It's a topical product for your skin. Toe juice, I don't want to put toe juice on my skin. Green thumb is for dental products. Global travel, now global travel, it's not a terrible name, The problem is you go to try to spell that 3 times, you go to 3 different websites because you can't figure out the spelling. And this one's going to go in, oh boy, translation. Frenzied cat meat. I don't like the word frenzy, but cat meat, they're selling cat food. They must have used Google Translate. So I've got a couple here that I want to show you. And this is so important, especially in the global marketplace now. If you're selling in Europe or Canada or in the US, anywhere in the world, you've got to understand and translate properly. And these are some things that, going again, brand names, people didn't hire translators, or if they did, they weren't very good. Like, I don't know about you, but I really don't want to eat only puke potato chips. That's terrible. And then in Burger King, this is a Poopoo Smoothie. Oh my gosh, this is Burger King in China, followed up by a pea cola in Ghana. And then this one knocks me out of the ballpark. So I don't know how successful are, but this is a fairly well-known chocolate bar in Czechoslovakia. I don't even have to say the name. And they're trying to sell it in North America. So I don't know about you, but I'm not eating that chocolate bar. So anyways, let's see. Think domain names. Okay, so on the domain side, one of the things to remember when you have a brand, now you've got to put it into a domain. And there's a couple of things to remember. Just don't use hyphens. That's important. It's no use. It used to be for keyword research, but it just doesn't look good. Long names, moisturizing lotion, the moisturizing lotion guy, too long of a name. If you go over 20 characters, people just don't want to type that in. Don't use unnecessary words like the, of, you. And then also, if you have a product that has similar names, or similar letters, like Hawaii Island Coffee, the human nature is going to put 2 I's when you go and type. So what I recommend is you buy 2 domain names, one with the proper spelling and one with Hawaii without the I on the island. And so if people misspell it, you can get it to point over. You just talk to your tech person and you want them to point that over to the proper brand name. It's not that it's a terrible name. And this, oh, don't be creative. Pet food for you. Okay, how do I spell that when if you're doing a radio ad, if you hear somebody talking about this in a conversation, and oh, you've got to go to pet for you. Okay, how do I get there? Because I can't find it. And the other thing is, don't buy cheap extensions. Do you know what an XYZ? I always wanted to know what an IO was. I have no idea. Not saying don't get them, but don't get them for your business. I can't see using an io.info or XYZ. Now, you want to make sure that you look at your domain when you put things together, because if you take a look at this, choose Spain. What the heck is choose Spain? I have no idea what it is. Well, it's choose Spain. IP anywhere. Okay. Internet protocol. This one here is an IT scrap company, and I Have Gas is a rental company in Vegas. But these are all real companies that have crazy names. Why they did it, and especially like a travel bureau for Spain. Now, where do you go and get those domain names? Again, we're concentrating on brand. You can go to GoDaddy, you can go to an auction, and again, don't go for the cheapest. And there's so many options to a .com. Don't feel that you have to spend huge money on a .com when there are alternatives over there. Now, the one thing you've got to keep in mind is when you are grabbing that domain and you cannot find it, no matter what you do, don't jeopardize your brand. Start over. Go back to square one and try to find a new name. Equity is tied into your domain name. It's so important that you have a good domain name and a good brand. And there's going to be a couple of points here that I show you that you should be able to find it, especially with all these really great extensions that are coming over. But again, if you have a domain and it's not matching your brand, start over. So I have a bunch of domains. I have $5 or $10 domains. I have $20,000 domains, and I'm not broke. I don't want to be broke buying domains, and I'm going to tell you how to do that in a second. I didn't buy mine from auctions, and my most expensive domain is not a .com. It's one of the new extensions. Now, here's a couple of the extensions that I do have. I use .shop, .co, .store. They're a little bit more expensive. I think .co is okay, but the other two are a bit more expensive, but it tells people what you're doing. But my favorite by far is .club. Coffee Club. What are they selling? Beard Club. Okay, let's see. What are they selling? Dollar Shave Club. Now, it was dollarshaveclub.com, but same thing. The reason why it's so successful outside of that viral video that they did, it's because it's a club. And what happens with a club is that it builds your brand. You're building equity. People know exactly what you're selling, Coffee Club. They want to be part of that community. They build brand loyalty. They'll bring referrals and people because they want to be part of this club. It's human nature. They want to be part of some form of organization. So all it is once you have that, and you have that e-commerce site, you create blogs and you provide information for people so they feel like they're part of a club. Now, oops. Oh, and the other thing about .club is they have a finance program, which is really interesting. So I'll show you a couple of things. That $10,000 domain, it only cost me $166 a month. And the $1,000 domains that I have cost me $16 a month. Now here's the catch. They're financed over 60 months, and I can get rid of them. I can dispose of these at any time. So let's say that I have a brand that I launch, and let's say coffee cost me $1,000 and it was $16 a month, and it took off. I keep the name, I pay it out over 60 months, and I've got a great brand. The $10,000 name, let's say it's coffeegrounds.club, and it doesn't work. Okay, you're spending $166 a month, you let it run for 6 months, and then you get rid of it. It doesn't cost you that much to have a premium domain, especially if you're looking at the .com business. Now, to get this, you can go to just get.club, just go and type your name in there. And if you want, you can use a code AMZ Club, and you'll get another 10% discount there. But what this will allow you to do is you can get a $1,000 domain, you get a $100 discount, or $10,000, you get a $1,000 discount. This is what I use all the time. This is the code I use, and I get this discount. Now, when you get in there, and this is one I just took, I took a snapshot of this, Honey Club. It would have cost me $125 over 60 months. It gives me enough time to build the brand, the equity, the trust, and if it sticks and I'm making money, I'll keep paying it off until I've got I've paid off that 60-month payment plan. Next is a logo. I think it's important that you don't do your own logo. A matter of fact, it's kind of a trade secret. I don't know why, but only people in the trade say this, but never use a family friend, receptionist, manufacturer, Fiverr, and 100% of the time, never do this yourself unless you're a graphic artist. You've got a brand that you're building and you want to have a company that people are going to trust. Your corporate identity, how important is that? Oh, let's go to Fiverr, spend $5 and get a logo and get it for somebody that went to high school that took a graphic course. But it's going to be a good logo. Not. And now, I'm going to just touch on these. But if you decide that you are either going to do your own logo or you're going to direct a graphic artist, you do not want clip art. For sure, you do not want to look at clip art. The font should be very simple. It does not have to be 10 different fonts in one logo. Spacing is critical. You'll see this in a second. The color, less is more. You don't want to have a lot going on. I've got some great examples. And keep your effects to a minimum. The format, I'm going to show you a couple of different things to ask for when you're building your logo. So these are some of the logos here. And the first one, what is it? All the rest, I know what they say, but I've had to look at it, and I'm sure you don't know what they say. So especially that fire hire bottom left, it could be not a bad logo if they would get rid of the fire burning everywhere and the big red mark. I mean, that would have been an okay logo. And the Doctor Club, you know, why the charades? Why do you have the golf club and the stethoscope? You don't need it. Now, format, people get confused with format. Typically, you just need to get a PDF file. It's called a vector file. Whether you have a small logo, an inch by an inch, or if you stretch it out, it's not going to fall apart. Pixelated or pixel files are computer-based logos, and they are the ones that if you expand, they start to pixelate. They have all these small squares. So you have to have it to size, where a PDF you don't. It's good to have both. So I have a PDF that I send out to everybody. And then I have my my PNG file. I call it a ping file. I think I'm the only person in the world that calls it a ping file, but PNG file. And that gives you brilliant colors when you're putting it onto a website. Now, what you want to look for and ask for is a color copy, a black and white copy, a grayscale, a transparent background. And if you noticed at the beginning of my presentation, I used a logo in the background. It was transparent because it looked better on a brown background. And then a logo with and without a tagline. So you want to have your logo like this, and then Soap Club, natural soap for natural people is the tagline. So you have it ready for all instances. And then you also want to talk about a spec sheet. So this really helps anybody that's you're working with keep consistent with your logo. Now here's a couple of before or after. Team Naturals, they sold natural products. I don't know why they had to look like a baseball team, but you know, we did the best we could, and I think it came out pretty nice. Soma 6 did go to Fiverr for this incredible toy product that kids loved. It was very colorful. This one kind of looked like they were welders or something. I'm not sure. And we came up with this logo. And then Soap Club was originally this with pinks and lavenders and blues. And we just made it black and white because all the packaging started with the corporate identity, and they started to target different audiences. It was more of an urban feel, and this black and white really works well on the soap packaging that we designed. Now, once again, don't use, I can't say this enough, family friend receptionist, manufacturer, Fiverr, and 100% of the time, never do it yourself. Step 2, think about your product. I'm not talking about going and sourcing your product. I'm not talking about that part of it. I'm talking about how do you differentiate from everybody else with the product. If you have a very similar product, how do you stand out from the crowd? How do you build loyalty off of the product? And again, you'll see trust and perceived value by doing this next very small study that I did. I went out before we, to prepare for the presentation. I got 3 beard combs. And this is the beard comb. This is a snapshot that I took. And this is the first one that had no imprint. It came in a cello pack. And okay, so a beard comb. Why are you showing me a beard comb? Well, it's such a boring product. How can I change this that I can take a 75-cent beard comb, which I bought this for $18.75? I did it, and it's very simple. This one, I could put a screen imprint on it. I could put an etch. I could put a sleeve over top of it for marketing material. I could put it into a vinyl pouch. The one that I chose was an etch that was on the, and I've got a picture of it here. Oh, right, there it is. These are the 4. And I picked up this one. I only picked out 3. This was just a picture of a sleeve I wanted to show you on the beard comb number 2. That was 75 cents. It came in a cello pack. This was $12.75, and it came in just a rigid box. And the last one came in an incredible package with a little tissue that unveiled the product. It was a magnetic lid, and they took some time to think about the product. And all they did was do a die cut for my credit card and my money, and it was $18.75. Now you would think that, okay, the sales would drop in $18.75. Wrong. The first one, I pulled this, I extracted this out of their back end. I know exactly how much they sold that month, and it was 2,500 units. All legally, of course. And then 7,500 for the $12.75, and then $18.75 was $15,000 a month. They actually topped $20,000 a month. This is something that is so much more, almost 10 times the 75 cents, 1875, and they were crushing their competition. So there are all sorts of different options when it comes to print. Embossing, debossing, screen print, laser etch, acid etch for metals, embroidery. How do you know all this stuff? You have to talk to your manufacturer and ask them about the different types of embroidery or imprinting that you can have. And then one color, multicolor, or tone on tone. A lot of times people go crazy with multicolor when all they need is one color or tone on tone. Again, this is something you can work with a designer on. And then what do you print? Let's say it's a bottle. Well, do you put it on the label? Do you put it on stickers? Do you put it directly on the bottle? Do you put it on a bag and then put the bottle in? There's options. Now, the other thing that you can take a look at when you're building this product is talk to your supplier about quality. Many suppliers in China believe that we want cheap. That's all we want. If you talk to them and say, look, we want quality, we're willing to pay for the quality, they're just worried that you're looking at the bottom line and it is cheap. But talk to them, try to get their ideas, and then you can go to a specialty packaging company and talk to them about pre-packaging. What can I do to enhance the value? Maybe it's a sleeve. For that beard comb, somebody used a cellophane pack for the first one. It got them the lowest price. And the guy at the end had a really beautiful package that it was pre-packaged in that vinyl pouch. Safety. Peace of mind is incredible. When you have a product, let's say it's a supplement or something like that, safety seals and caps and outer seals just give a peace of mind. And labels, don't go crazy with labels. A lot of times, less is more. I don't want to know that you went to the Himalayas, climbed Mount Everest to find the perfect salt. That's for your webpage, not for your label. Keep it simple. Let people know what they're buying, and maybe have a promo code on there or something, but just keep it simple. The other thing is to think about colors. That plastic shoe stretcher I was talking about it came in red. One of the things I tried to do was see if it came in a different color. Either green, red, blue. And also I was thinking about different materials. Can you take that plastic shoe stretcher and put it into wood, not glass, but these are just different metal material types I'm talking about. But believe it or not, that wood shoe stretcher, here's the difference. A plastic shoe stretcher that fell apart that had all those 3 stars, I found a wood shoe stretcher that the red shoe stretcher was only doing $3,000 to $4,000 a month on Amazon. The wood shoe stretcher was $2 more. It was selling at $19, not at $6 or $7, and it was selling over $100,000 a month. So just by changing up the type of material. And then weight. I did this with my friends. I've got, back in the day, I had a receiver. It was a Harman Kardon receiver, and it was a remote that I had with it, and it was always bugged me how cheap it was because it was so light. And I'd have this other remote that was heavier, and I'd just give it to friends. Hey, check this out. Which one is more? Now, the Harman Kardon, very expensive stereo system, to this other thing was an import from China, and I don't even know what it was a remote for, but it had a piece of lead in it to increase the weight. And it's just proved time and time again that people would pay more for that weighted, cheap remote compared to the Harman Kardon one. Now, the other thing about this is, you can talk about size. And I'm going to get into that in a little bit later. And also competition. Don't worry about your competition. Embrace it. The more competition you have, the more traffic you're going to have on your site. People are going to be looking for you more. You don't have to go out there and try to destroy your competition. I embrace it. I do have friendly competitors out there that I work with, and just talk back and forth to try to increase the quality of our products. And if you go out there fearing a competitor, all that's going to do is cheapen your look, and you're going to build less trust. Just remember those beard combs. Now, the next couple of steps are very quick. I'll get through this quite quickly. Think about packaging. This is another way to build the perceived value, to build loyalty, to increase traffic. And you can also cut down on customer service calls because the packaging can have, you've got a big area that you can put information on. It's not like the label where you're tight on information. You can put more information on it. Now, I'll show you what a good a designer can do. So this is one of our products. This is a natural meat product for dogs. It's a pet treat. And so we wanted to do something a little bit different. So we did. We came up with the same type of poly bag or Ziploc top, and it came up, I think it turned out pretty good, but it wasn't good enough. Because when I talked to my supplier, I said, look, I like to have a variety of different creations. And a lot of the time, I'll go to 2 different graphic artists because I want to get 2 different views. But this is the difference that they came up with. So I had that one, which was pretty good. And then they gave me 9. I'm going to show you 4 more here. And I had a better selection to choose from. With the packaging, that's another thing. Think about, what you can do. Not so much with the dog treats, but like with a bar of soap, you can put tissue over it with a sticker. You can put cloth over it with a sticker. Ziploc bags, you can package things in EVA foam. The difference in material makes a huge quality. Let's just take a veneer to a wood. Then what wood type and what wood scent? So those those combs, I could get them in pine, but I wanted sandalwood. And then upgrade options. I have an example of a garden shear for home gardening, which you could use just a regular steel blade. Then we upgraded to a steel carbon. And for 32 cents more, we had a titanium blade. And then plastic to glass. Maybe with soaps, is it a natural fragrance or an essential oil? And as I mentioned, the lead. Different size containers. Bigger, smaller, different. A sample of I'm playing with sizes. I wanted to sell soap, so I did 5 1-ounce bars. I got tons of complaints the bars were too small. 4-ounce bar, I couldn't meet the price point I wanted to go at. The 5-ounce bar, I was able to get $12.95 for my soap. However, when I went to the manufacturer, and that's why it's so important to visit the manufacturer, there were scraps all over the ground from me and my competitors. I asked him what he was doing with them. He said he was going to throw them out. I called my Chinese manufacturer and I said, hey, do you have anything like a cotton bag or a soap glove? And for 15 cents, he had it. I put all these free scraps in. I was selling the soap scraps for $14.95, and it was outselling some of my soaps. The Dead Sea, I was just, I had a client that also did the same thing. He was trying to compete with 16-ounce. So all we did is drop the amount down to 4 ounces. We charged more, and we sold quite solidly against the 16-ounce units. Now here's a couple of package examples. The bags are these Chinese, typical Chinese box, designed by the Chinese. Well, we went to a focus group and we said, hey, moms, what do your kids like? And we also talked to kids too. And one of the concerns was the ability to walk around with the products because they kept losing these ABC puzzles. And so we put a little handle on it. We, instead of the cheap card stock, we made it into a corrugated cardboard. We made it a carrying case. But one of the things that we got out of the group was they wanted a game. We gave them a game. It didn't cost us anything more. We just put it on the bottom of the box. Another thing, here's same bottle. I don't like the bottle, but I couldn't convince the client I didn't like the bottle, but we came up with just a different look. And here's the garden shears I was talking to you about, and just change the packaging. I think the packaging cost me 20 cents more, but the sales increased dramatically. And we've talked mostly about the manufacturer. If you'd like to get a hold of me, my email address is norm@thebeardguy.club. And yes, I did use the because it was the brand. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Norm, for a very interesting presentation. And folks, we are now open for question and answer. So if you have any questions, you could insert it in the question box, or you could equally raise your hand. I see that we are pressed on time, so we can take a couple of questions. There are a couple of them already posted. The first one, Norm, one of the questions, your main focus was on Amazon. Will these steps work with other e-commerce sites like Shopify or service businesses?
Oh yeah, and that's what I was saying. So I did focus on Amazon, but the beauty of this presentation is regardless if you could even have a bricks and mortar store. It's all about perception, so that you can take these steps and apply it to a service-based industry or any type of product that you're selling online or offline.
Thank you very much. Another one, how fast or at what point should I stop selling a bad product?
Immediately. So well, I like to fill very quickly. So if you're looking at it, and especially at product launch, well, first of all, if it's a gut feel when you're sourcing a product and you're putting the packaging together and you just don't think that the image, the brand or the product can fit that image, and you get that tingly feeling in your stomach that something's up, I'd probably be looking at cutting it loose right away. But I usually wait till I run a small test and I'll see how the reviews come back. And if the reviews are really bad, if I can change the product, if I can go back to manufacturing and say, oh, can you make it bigger, stronger, whatever, then I would do that. But if there's a problem and it fails, do it then. It's rather a few $1,000s into it than hundreds of thousands of dollars into it and you have a failed product.
Okay, thank you very much. Talking about the failed products, are there any failed products you would try to relaunch? If so, what would you do?
Yeah, and if I use something out of my presentation, I did have somebody come to me with that plastic shoe stretcher. And doing the research, the plastic shoe stretcher only had a few $1,000s a month in profit, and there were terrible reviews. But at the same time, by doing the research, I saw that wooden shoe stretcher. So I would have gone back and said to the supplier, hey, do you have a wooden shoe stretcher? Because not only is it a better product, they had better reviews, but they had 100,000 in sales. And it wasn't just one person. Like I looked at different types of shoe stretchers, and in each category, they were all doing 50 to 100,000 rather than 2 to 4,000. So yeah, it's based on your research, going back, talking with the manufacturer, and if they come back, or if there's no other options that you can see in the reviews, then I would cut it there. But if you do see hope and your supplier is willing to work with you, you can find a supplier to solve the issue, then I would definitely go forward and work with that person and relaunch.
Thank you very much. And one quick last question. You talk about the importance of taking action when you find opportunities. Do you have any examples?
Yes, opportunity surrounds us. One of the things that I did, and this is a quick little story, but I can remember I was traveling in Vietnam and I was looking for some furniture, and I went into this furniture manufacturer and they were making replica ships in the back. And so I was asking them about the replica ships, and they took 500 hours to make. These are beautiful wooden tall ships. And so I took a chance. I saw an opportunity, and I took a chance, and I bought a container for the Miami Boat Show. When I was at the Miami Boat Show, it was failing. For 2 days, I sold nothing until somebody said, what's wrong with my boats? And I asked them why, and they said, well, there's another competitor over there. His boats don't look as nice, but they're way more expensive. Is there a problem with your boats? So I ran over there, took a look at a Chinese manufacturer who was selling boats for $3,500. I went back. These boats were 3 feet long. My price was $750. I went to a copy at that time, it was called Kinko's, and I redid my price list. I put it to $2,500, and I sold out. And it was just an opportunity that it was there. Nobody else was really doing it. I did it for 3 more trade shows before the market got saturated, but I took advantage of it. So no matter where, like it could be a product that you see on Amazon, or it could be a product that you that could make a difference in today's marketplace, and jump on it. Because if you don't take action right away, you probably lose. You become a follower rather than a leader.
All right, that really brings us towards the end of the webinar. So I really want to thank you, Mr. Norman Farrar, on behalf of the Madinah Institute for Leadership and Entrepreneurship. I want to thank you on behalf of the MILE for taking the time to deliver this very interesting webinar. So once again, thank you very much.
Great, thank you. It was my pleasure.
Thank you indeed, and thank you all of those who attended this webinar. Hope you found it helpful, and with that note I would like to end and conclude. So you all have a good day, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're calling from. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you very much.